Hello everyone, my name is Cristina Kahn and I'm going to be doing my presentation on my educational technology internship portfolio that I completed for my Loyola Master's Program in Educational Technology. This is an internship that I did at my current school in Germantown, Maryland. Just to share a little bit about myself, I am a 4th grade teacher at Germantown Elementary, and I will be going into my 11th year of teaching. I have taught 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade at my school, and have been at my school for the duration of my career. For my internship, I thought about the structure of my school when planning my proposal. And I work at a very small school with barely over 300 students. So this means that my professional staff is very small. The focus of my internship is to support the implementation of using Chromebooks and Google Apps for Education. Many of the teachers in grades 3 through 5 have been using them for now about 3 years and have a good understanding about how to use them in the classroom. But there have been a lot of grade level changes at my school, so that meant that teachers who have taught primary grades were using technology in a one-to-one model for the very first time. And they were also using Google Apps for Education for the first time as well. There was also talk about Chromebooks that would soon be used in 2nd grade and then continue to trickle down to kindergarten and 1st grade. This would be an internship that I think would help the entire staff be on board and would help them in the next phase in the tech mod rollout for next year and being ready for that. I wanted to support teams in collaborative planning meetings also. My goal in the end is to be a tech leader at my school. So meeting with teams to brainstorm tools or to locate resources or to give them ideas of ways to use them in the classroom would be my ultimate goal. I want to have practice being able to support planning as I hope to eventually phase out of the classroom and into another role in supporting technology integration, whether that be at my school or another school. Another goal that I have is to expose my staff to technology resources outside of Google Apps for Education. We've learned about so many tools in our program that work with Google that I wanted to share and wanted to make my staff aware of them so that way they can think of other ways that they could use them as well in their classroom. And the 4th goal of my internship is that many teachers I found out were using technology inappropriately or more of as a babysitter to keep kids busy. And I wanted to show and help teachers use the SAMR model to see ways that they can use technology to create opportunities that would have not been possible before, not just at the substitution level, but allowing students to collaborate and create products at a higher level. So I have to say that I got off to a really slow start. I began with meeting with my administration. This was a difficult feat, seeing how busy my principal was. We are a very small school, so our principal is the only administrator at my school. And when I finally had a chance to meet and sit down and I shared some ideas, she said that it would be best if I worked with the UDL committee. So at my school, all the professional staff is asked to join a committee, and the UDL one is one that has been established for a couple of years, and she thought that it would be an easy fit. I would have to talk to the UDL advisor to see how she felt about this, and so I met with her at the head of the committee, and she thought it was really great. The only feedback that she gave me was to see how I could implement UDL principles into the meetings. So once the school year got started, another part that I noticed was I could see a big project in my internship was going to be working with my teammate. She was new to my grade level and had used Chromebooks in the past, but when we began planning and preparing for the school year, it became pretty clear how little she knew and also how she viewed technology in the classroom. So I began creating shared folders in Google Drive with her so that we could collaborate and work together on resources. I then showed her how to create her own folders and then how to add our shared folders to her drive. She had never done this before in the 3 years that we have been using Chromebooks, so I think she was just used to having people just give her things and telling her what to do and not really having to work and think things out. And so I knew that working with my teammate would be a huge focus for my internship. Also in September, the month continued with me meeting and working with the 5th grade team. Both of the teachers on this team were former teammates of mine. So they had joined me in years past for my technology journey that I had been on. They had been my guinea pigs before and were always really receptive to the different types of technology that I was trying to use. They were pretty versed in Google Forms, but I had shown them the previous year my parent-teacher conference sign-up, and they had loved this idea, and so they wanted me to meet with them to show them how to create one for themselves. So we met after school, and I showed them how to create the Google form for parent-teacher conferences. We then talked about how to put that add-on in Google Forms, so that way it would eliminate conference times as parents signed up, kind of like different websites do for signups, like Sign Up Genius. And then from there, we discussed ways that we would have parents sign up for the conference times, whether it be during our back to school night, sending out the email to parents with the link to it, so that way they could also look at it on their own time if they were not ready to sign up that early in the school year. So in October, the committee sign up was complete. And for some reason, it takes my staff a really long time to sign up for committees at my school. But then once we found out the list, I sent out an interest form. And again, with my school being so small, my committee only had 8 people, including me. So from the feedback I got, I was really unsure about where to start. And even with those 8 people, there are so many varying levels of interest in tools. So I think that really changed my focus a lot and thinking about how to support my staff. I know that meeting in smaller groups and finding ways to support in meeting would be the best. So then I created a Google site, and in this site I began to make screencasts of different tools. The first set was for Google Apps for Education and all those things in the Google Suite. I think that this was a great start, as I would be able to provide brand new people with a resource, as well as it being a really good refresher for teachers who had more experience working with these tools. Also, again, working with my teammate this month, we spent a lot of time planning out and thinking with using Google Apps for Education. So our focus really was using Google Docs and Google Slides. She seemed to know some of the basic tools with each of these, but not knowing how to set them up for effective instruction. So from our discussions that we had in planning, she opened up that she would just tell her students to open up a new document and then just get started working. She didn't provide the direction or criteria. She just expected them to know how to use it and move on. And I think that created a lot of problems with student work. And so a lot of our planning time was, and even extra planning time, was finding ways of how we could use these tools more effectively and also appropriately. So in our shared drive, we would create templates and then discuss how we would use them in Google Classroom, and then sharing Google Classroom so that way we could work together and kind of help each other out with this. And another great end to the month was that 3rd grade actually asked me to help them in a planning session. So they asked me to join them for this one. It was in their reading planning, and they were looking for some tools and ideas to help with note-taking with reading instructions. So they were using an online text, and they were hoping that they could find a tool that could help them model to the class and possibly them being able to use it on their own for their own reading. So I shared Notely. I also shared Padlet, which is another great one to use in small groups. And then I also shared about Google Keep. And they were receptive to it. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot of discussion, a lot of sharing. I modeled to them. I showed them the sites and everything like that. But I'm sure there could have been more to it. But I think it was a really great start. Parent-teacher conferences, Thanksgiving break, and winter break really made meeting with my UDL committee very difficult. So, but that was okay because I was still able to meet and support with my teammate one-on-one with technology tools, and I really was able to support the 5th grade team. The first person being working with my teammate. So each week there was times like I felt I was teaching her about a new tool, and I could really tell from our meetings sometimes that she was feeling overwhelmed and it sometimes really frustrated. So with our planning meetings, it really taught me patience with working with adult learners. So she's someone who has very little experience, but also a lot of fears with working with technology. And so she needed a lot of hand holding and like to ask questions through each and every single step. And so I think I really found a newfound respect for my staff development teacher and my reading specialist as they lead pretty much every single leadership and staff meeting, but also had to be thinking about these things when they're planning. So a new tool that I shared with my teammate was Powtoons. And we were looking for a new way to demonstrate their work and even to use them in our possible inquiry projects. So I demonstrated how to create an example, and I had some examples from students from previous years also, and this was a tool that my students had loved using in the past. So I was really excited about using it and thinking about ways we can use it for instruction. But I don't think she really felt the same way as I did. So I knew that she needed a lot of time to be able to digest this tool and also needed her own time to play around with it. So I've really learned from working one-on-one with her that she needs to feel very confident about a tool before she will welcome it into her classroom. But we kept working at it, and then in the end, she used it and her students loved it. And so from this experience, especially these past 2 months, I learned that you need to find ways to support your teammates to feel comfortable and confident, and even confident with even just trying a tool, even if they don't know every single little piece about it, and being open to trying it with their students. So the beginning of the school year, the beginning of the new actual year kind of started with my counselor. And she came to me mid-year telling me that she was having some trouble with organizing and sending materials to students when she was meeting with them, when she had sessions or lessons with some of the classes. So I started talking to her about, have you thought about Google Classroom? And so she had heard about it, but she had never set it up herself. So I ended up working with her one-on-one to set up a classroom for each of her classes. And she would, and then beginning to show her the basics of Google Docs and Google Classroom, how to set those things up. So she was forever grateful for my help because we then were able to send the codes to each of the student or each of the teachers, and then have them have their students log in and create accounts or log into her Google Classroom. So that was almost kind of ready as soon as they came to her classes, because she only met with them for 30 minutes at a time. Twice a month, so very little time, so getting started and all those kinds of things really helped her. I then asked if I could join her classroom as another teacher, and I liked this because I wanted to kind of see how she was posting things, and we would kind of meet periodically. It started now, but it continued throughout the rest of the school year, where I would kind of help and answer questions. Hey, did you think about this? Why don't we try it this way instead? Kind of ways to make it more easier to seem and be able to help and just answer any questions. I really, really enjoyed working with my counselor. She had no problem coming and asking me for help, and I think that this was a really good start to other people also doing that as well, besides teachers who are in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And I really got the most out of the internship because she just wanted to know more and more and more, and I really enjoyed teaching her more and more and more. I do have to say that as someone in my schools that the staff really come to and ask for advice with technology, she would always send them my way. So I think this was a really great way to start the new year with getting back into it again. February really got me going then. So because of getting, people thinking about them in February, at our instructional leadership team, that I'm a member of, we were discussing our measures of academic progress scores, which are MAP. And in 3rd through 5th grade, we do MAP M and MAP R for math and reading. And then in the primary, they do MAP P, but it's mostly a focus on math skills. And we look specifically at the math data and stated, kind of thinking about, okay, how are we going to be able to support students, especially because they were at all of these different levels of math proficiency. And so our school system, MCPS, had created this website with resources and links to supports at all the different levels. But each of the students that we were looking at were at one level when it comes to geometry, and then another level with numbers and operations, and then a totally different level, even with operations and algebraic thinking. So the dilemma was, how do we provide them with the resources at their level for each of these, math strands? So I suggested using Symbaloo. And I shared the tool with the instructional leadership team, showed them how easy it was to build, ones that I had used in different types of things, and I showed them how to create it, how to add in links for each of them, and how easy it was to copy and paste those URLs, and also how we can color code the boxes, as you can see in my example, that we would create and really create a site that was personalized for every single student. So during the leadership team, each student had time to create a Symbaloo for at least one student at their grade level. Afterwards, I kind of asked for some feedback from the team members on their opinion about the tool. They really liked it and how easy it was to click on things and add them in color code and stuff like that. The only thing was the amount of time that it took to set up each one. And so if you have 6 kids, that's going to be 6 hours worth of time. So really kind of game planning, okay, am I going to be the one that's doing it for all the kids at our grade level? Are we going to split it up between people, and so forth? They also brought up the fact of, okay, what happens when we take MAP again and their scores change? Are we going to have to change all of the sites? And it really helped me to think, is this the best tool for each person to be able to use to provide those differentiated tools for each of those students? But we found it really easy to be able to, help students at their math levels, but also to be able to send it out to parents so that way they can see it and use it at home too, with helping their kids with, math challenges and so forth. My highlight for my internship was my March staff meeting when I was asked to present. They loved what I had done at our instructional meeting, and so therefore they asked if I could share about another math tool at our whole professional staff meeting in March. They didn't really give me any parameters to follow, but they told me, I'm going to be presenting, but 2 other people are going to be presenting about other topics, but I was the only one that's going to be sharing about a technology tool. So I was really, really excited about this. It was really clear to me that my administration liked my ideas and they wanted me to share some more with the whole staff, which I was really happy about. I had to think of a tool when planning that would be very easy to use, easier to set up than Symbaloo, and one that the teachers could easily do once they got back to their classroom. So I decided on using the extension Screencastify. This was one that I use all the time in my instruction. I use it to support students, to explain things, to demonstrate. I also use it with actual teaching instructions, and I even taught my students how to use it for themselves to be able to demonstrate their work. So in my presentation, what I did was I was in my classroom, which was really nice. So I was able to show how I access the extension, how I set up a recording, and then I modeled how to create a strong screencast and the parameters of a good screencast, and how easily the screencast will save automatically into your Google Drive, which I then showed how easy it is to then share into Google Classroom, how to be able to share with parents afterwards, and so forth. So once I showed those kinds of things, my staff was beyond excited about it. They started sharing things that they really liked about it. We even conducted a brainstorming session about ways that they could use Screencastify with substitutes, with presenting information to parents about a strategy that they're using. And what's best is that my principal loved it, and so she tweeted about my presentation to the Twitter sphere, which is great because we're all connected in this like Twitter PLN community with MCPS. So that means other principals and other schools are able to see some of the stuff that I'm presenting in my classroom to the staff. And so the best part, I think, was afterwards when a second grade teacher came up to me and said that she wanted to create a video and that she needed help setting up. So I came to her classroom during our lunch break, and we were able to work on it and create it together. And then a few days later after that, a fifth grade teacher created a screencast, but she wanted help to being able to send to a parent who was having some trouble with some math homework. So I could tell immediately how receptive my staff was to this tool, and I want to be able to share it again and other screencasting tools to teachers as well that maybe they might be able to use at home too. So April, it's getting closer to the end of the year, and my students were getting incredibly antsy, and we're struggling with being able to keep my students engaged. And then I remembered a tool that we had learned in our first course in this program, which was Get Kahoot. I brought it up with my teammate, and she was at her wits' ends with her students, so she was more than excited for something new. Which I could automatically tell it was her changing in her thinking, something new, this is good, and being receptive to that. So we were talking about using this in the hallway, and then the fifth grade team heard. And I know that one of the other teachers had tried to use it, but she said she would love to learn more. So the four of us met after school, and I showed them how to set up the account and how easy it was to connect to your Google Apps for Education account that we all have, and then I modeled how to create their own tests from scratch and the different tools that they can use when thinking about for each of the questions. And then we also spent some time searching through Kahoots that are already created, so maybe we can pick and choose, or if we really liked one in general, we were able to duplicate it and then adapt it for our own classes. So after that, we then broke off, and me and my teammate and then the other two fifth grade teachers spent time creating and finishing up a Kahoot that we were going to use in our classes. So the next few days in our hallway were pretty loud, but that really means that the students were really engaged in this assessment tool. And so, but I think for just next time that we need to talk about when we're going to use it and better planning and strategizing for it, because it's really hard to teach a reading lesson when somebody right next to you is doing a Get Kahoot. So, but I could tell this was a really great tool and was incredibly interactive. And I hope that we can continue sharing this tool, and possibly I can use this in a professional development for next year. So, May, unfortunately, was the beginning of part testing, and it took up pretty much the entire month of May. So this meant that there was no time at all. Every single person in our staff was either testing, preparing for testing, or trying to teach around testing schedules. So this was unfortunately really unfortunate, but I continued to work with my teammate, and we really got strong towards the end of the year, being reflective and thinking about technology tools and our planning, and thinking about how we can be more strategic about the ways that we can help students complete their work. At the end of the month, I was asked by my principal to join my reading specialist and staff development teacher in a training for a new data assessment tool called Performance Matters. And I knew that many other schools in our county were piloting the tool. And so it was kind of overwhelming when I went to the training. There were so many parts in Performance Matters that you have to know and how to use and how to add and so forth that through this whole internship and even in this program, I have really been reflective about effective professional development. And so when watching and participating in this one, it really made me think, what do I need to do for my own professional development to make it, more streamlined and easier for my staff to be able to grasp these concepts and be able to use these tools. The best thing about this is that I'm going to be training my staff during pre-service for next school year about how to use Performance Matters. So I'm really thinking about, okay, how can I teach this tool? What are the best supports? How can I support my veteran teachers? How can I support complete new staff as well? I have to say that overall, I am so proud of the work that I was able to accomplish with my internship. I really think I provided staff with a new appreciation for technology and made them think of new and innovative ways that it can be used to support teaching and learning. I also changed a lot about myself in this program with how to support my own team planning and the types of questions and thinking to do to help build someone's confidence. At the end of the year, my teammate left to become a media specialist, but she now has the wealth of knowledge about educational tools and resources that she can bring to her new school and how she can support teachers in planning and use tools for their projects and research. There were key things she said she highlighted in her interview, and I am proud that I was able to help her in her next phase of her career. The last accomplishment, which I am most excited about, was the professional opportunities that this internship has provided for me. I am now truly considered a technology leader at my school for everyone to come to when they need support. I am also viewed by my administration as someone to support professional development at my school. I was asked by my administration to help with trainings during pre-service for the next school year. I will also be a trainer for new educators orientation, where I will be introducing teachers to our district. In my application, I was able to share how I have planned and supported professional development and trainings at my school, and to think of new knowledge, and to think that my knowledge will be able to help in building a professional learning network for new teachers. Time, of course, was a major factor that inhibited the changes that I had hoped for. Teachers in my committee became pregnant and were then on maternity leave, so that whittled our group in half. And then with testing and so many other commitments, we were not able to meet the way that I had hoped. There were many different needs in our staff, and when the teachers had different levels of with technology proficiency, so it was really hard to plan ways to support them all. I gathered data in the beginning of the school year, but it did not continue throughout the year, and I know that this is something that I needed to be more vigilant about. The last challenge was the motivation. I know that with teaching and taking the classes and courses that we did, it was hard to stay motivated to continue, but also to keep teachers motivated to learn and stick with it with me. My next steps will be to continue to update the website that I had originally created. I will need to include screencasts for more tools. I'm also looking to provide different screencasts for different levels. So we'll have more supports for basic, proficient, and advanced levels for each tools. I think that this will help more people to be able to want to watch my videos and participate in the trainings. I'm also thinking about the resources MCPS is providing for us. I know that I will be teaching about Performance Matters, but I know that more trainings will be coming out throughout the year. So I will need to think about ways to have meetings for those new skills and how to implement them to my entire staff. There will also be new other tools such as GoGuardian, which is a tool for keeping students and monitoring their internet usage on their Chromebooks. The last one is My MCPS Classroom. This is a tool that will be a blend of Google Classroom, the Remind app, and also Gradebook. And there are so many tools and ways that this can be utilized in our school. And I know that they had trainings over the summer, but it was on a voluntary basis. And I know that they only had limited space. So really, I need to look into it and think about how we can train and support teachers in our school to be able to use this tool at the beginning of the school year and then throughout, and really providing maybe time to plan and brainstorm for the staff so they can actually create something to use in their classrooms immediately. I also want to find ways to incorporate digital literacy in community meetings. I've already begun to email our media specialist on lessons that she can do in our first classes, but also thinking about lessons that teachers can be doing in their classrooms as well. Thank you so much for viewing my internship presentation. I appreciate your time. If you have any additional questions, please email me, or you can find me on Twitter at my Twitter handle at GES Mrs. Kahn. Thank you.